Okay, so grateful here today to be with you, to share our time with our leprechaun friends in the electronics, and with Okay. Well, everybody take a deep breath. Ready? And hold it, and sip in some more. And then slowly sigh it out. Everybody take another deep full breath. Breathe in some more. Hold it. Breathe out real slow. Again, super slow sigh. Well, here we are. Okay. That must have been it. All right. So, grateful for the leprechauns, grateful for all the things. And so today, the title for the topic today was There's No Such Thing as Luck. So sorry to tell you this, with all your green and everything else you have on today, but there's no such thing as luck. It's not real. None of these things are real. In fact, nothing's real. This is all an illusion. I'm sorry if you were confused to thinking that there was something real here. We are all an illusion. So acting from that premise, from that understanding, then everything is what we make it, right? We're all living our illusions. So taking that kind of responsibility for it is hard, right? Because that means we're a part of all of it, the good things and the leprechauns, and both sides of the leprechauns, the part where they're doing things to us and the part where we receive it. What's a way that we change things in our experience? We change the road we're on. We change the path. We change the way we look at the path and see that the path isn't just our problems. The path isn't just that story we've been told that we fit ourselves into because we had to. Our story is what we make of it and how we step in and show up in our heart space. So everybody has the right color on today. I actually didn't, so if you guys want to pinch me later, it is what it is. But yeah, so green is the heart color, right? It is our space of growth. It is our space of showing up with love and with compassion for everything around us. And I don't want to say but first self, but first self. Because if we don't feel that compassion for ourselves, and we can't forgive ourselves and move forward and step into the light that we are, then we sit in that pain for as long as we let ourselves, which might be our whole lives. It might be our whole experience. We are not our experience. We are what we decide to do with it. We get a whole deck of cards. Everybody gets the same deck of cards, but some people's cards are cut. Some people's are in half. Some people's are in the wrong deck. Some of them are mixed up. Some of them aren't even the same kind of cards. Right? But when we deal them out, we are deciding what we're going to do with them and where we're going to put them and how we're going to show up in our lives. So there are higher forces and they want to see us succeed. But just like I've said, and I think I've said it right on this podium, they also don't pick sides. So if what you're calling in is the bad stuff in your life, then it's showing up. And I don't want to say that in a way that's bypassing anything, but our thoughts create our feelings, right? Our feelings create our actions, right? Our actions create our deeds, our experience, our habits, that sit in our experience all the time, and all it takes is us to just be like, wait, all I had to do is change my mind? Well, yeah, but we spent 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 5 minutes making our mind in one direction, right? And we can change that at any time, right? So is there luck? No, there's no luck. But you can stack the odds completely in your favor just by choosing the way you're looking at and showing up for the things that are happening. And yeah, we forget that. The leprechauns always want us to succeed. So do the angels. So do the archangels. And the demons do too, right? They want to see you succeed with everything you're thinking about that's negative. And they're going to feed off of that and enjoy it for every moment of their existence, just like the angels do for our joys, right? And so what do we feed? Which of the two wolves do we feed, to go into the Native American perspective, or the moon, to look at from a tarot perspective? We get what we put out. It comes back to us. And it comes back to us, what is it? Heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, for the good and the bad. So remember that, right? The more somebody said recently, I've said this a few times in these soulscapes, that 80% of our thoughts are negative. Like everybody's. So let's just, it doesn't mean that the bad things didn't happen. It doesn't mean there's not bad things out there. But we can choose how we look at all of it. It can be learning, or it can be hell. And I don't even like saying that word, because it's not a thing. It's a choice to be in those experiences and to hold that frequency and that vibration for our lives. So, luck. Back at luck, right? Let's see what lucky pages we get. Excuse me, from the book of the day. Our book of the day is How to Know God by Deepak Chopra, A Soul's Journey into the Mysteries of Mysteries. How do we show up? Is our God showing up to run the snakes out of Ireland, right? And to quelch all the negative things that we perceived as negative, right? Because the snakes weren't the snakes, right? It was the people who had other than Catholic thoughts, right? So we all have snakes, right, in us. So how do we redeem ourselves with that space instead of running them out of our lives? How do we make amends with that? All right. Let's see where the book takes us. It always lines up. What is the nature of good and evil? Good is the union of all opposites. Evil no longer exists. The shadow of evil stalks behind goodness up to the last moment. Only when it is totally absorbed into unity does the threat of evil end once and for all. The story of Jesus reaches its poignant climax in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he prays that the cup be taken from his hands. He knows that the Romans are going to capture and kill him, and the prospect gives rise to a terrible moment of doubt. It is one of the loneliest and most wrenching moments in the New Testament, and it is utterly imaginary. The text itself tells us that Jesus had walked apart from everyone else, and that his disciples had fallen asleep. Therefore, no one could have overheard what he said, particularly if he was praying. I think that this last temptation was projected onto him by writers of the gospel. Why? Because they couldn't conceive of his situation except through their own. They viewed Christ across a gap. The same gap that keeps us from imagining how all fear, temptation, sin, evil, and imperfection could be transcended. Yet this is what happens in stage 7. Religions have a hard time being funny. And in the Middle Ages, people didn't see much humor in the soul's journey. They were too aware of death, disease, Satan's temptations, and the many woes in this vale of tears. The church underscored these horrors, and about the only escape was on holidays when a rough plank stage was erected outside the cathedral. Upon it, miracle plays were performed, and then Satan wasn't so frightening because he could be played as a clown. The same people who trembled at the prospect of sin now witnessed the devil taking pratfalls. In those moments, the church was teaching a new lesson. Evil itself must be redeemed. History comes to an end here on earth when Satan is accepted back into heaven. Then the triumph of God becomes complete. Yeah, remember, I'll go back into this in a second, but like, Lucifer, Satan, all those concepts, whatever, it was like he was the first angel, right? It was the one that kind of said, wait a minute. And then he was kicked out. There's no wait a minute. So, anyway, not sticking up for it, but you know what I mean? Like, he was one of them. So redemption is about bringing the heart back in, about seeing that there's just levels of being, and you were at that level, and now we're moving forward and beyond that. Okay. On the personal level, you can't afford to have the last laugh until stage 7. As long as the mind is caught up in choices, some are going to turn out worse than others. We all equate pain with evil. And as a sensation, pain doesn't end. It is part of our biological inheritance. The only way to get beyond it is to transcend, and that is accomplished by attaining a higher point of view. In stage 7, all versions of the world are seen as projections, illusions. And a projection is nothing more than a point of view. I'll say that again. And a projection is nothing more than a point of view that has come to life. The highest point of view, then, would be to encompass anything that happens, without preference and without rejection. I was starkly confronted by this possibility on 2 occasions when evil stood on my doorstep. The first occurred in the early 1970s when I was a struggling resident living in a seedy part of Boston. My wife had gone out, leaving me in charge of our infant daughter. It was getting late when the door to our apartment flew open and a very big, menacing man strode in. He didn't say anything. My head swiveled around, and before I was even aware that he was carrying a baseball bat, I jumped up and grabbed it. Neither of us spoke. In less than a second, I had swung the bat and hit him on the head, knocking him unconscious. A few seconds later, my heart was pounding with adrenaline, but at the instant I acted, I wasn't myself. The action didn't belong to me. Naturally, a great deal of turmoil resulted when the police arrived, and it was quickly discovered that the man was a released felon with a history of assault and suspected murder. I had acted perfectly correctly, even though at a conscious level I had a strong commitment to nonviolence. But the story isn't complete. 2 years ago, I had just finished a lecture in a southern city and happened to exit from a hall by a back door to an alley. This looked like the shortest route back to my hotel, but waiting for me there were 3 gang youths. One pulled a gun and held it to my temple. When he demanded my wallet, I suddenly knew what to say. "Look, I can give you my bills, but not my credit cards," I told him in a calm voice, holding out the money. "You don't want to shoot me over $200. That would be murder, and it will follow you the rest of your life. So just drop your weapon and go, okay?" It amazed me to be saying these words. It was as though I were standing there watching myself. The youth's hand was shaking, and the 3 of them looked undecided. All at once I shouted, "Go," at the top of my lungs. The gun fell at my feet, and the 3 of them ran away. 2 scenes of evil, 2 different reactions. I offered them as evidence that something inside us already transcends the present situation. Where we see the play of opposites, our inner awareness takes every moment as unique. I haven't told quite the whole story about the second incident. In my bargaining, I also promised the youths that I would not tell the police, and I never did. One act of potential violence was met with violence, the other with pacifism. I can't explain my choices except to say that they weren't chosen. The actions performed themselves. Justice was served in both cases, acted out from beyond my limited point of view. In stage 7, a person realizes that it isn't up to us to balance the scales. If we hand over our choices to God, we are free to act as the impulse moves us, knowing its source is divine unity. And it ends, it goes into the next section, but I'm not going to read it. It says, "What is my life challenge? To be myself." So how do we show up? How do we show up with the things in our life, with the difficulties? Do we show up fully as ourselves with love and compassion in our heart space? Or do we let ourselves go into those old patterns and those old pictures of what the world was supposed to look like, or what I wanted it to be, or any of those held resentments and, things that eat at us and make us sit in so much pain and fear and worry and all those things, So the more you can get back into your heart space, the more clear you can make your present moment, the more that you can align the leprechauns to work in your favor. Thank you for being quiet now, Mr. Leprechauns. And thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Have a great day.